In the last parts of the video, we examined the spiritual path as a journey from samsara to moksha, or the reverse path from moksha to samsara as the evolution of the universe, and how these pertain to various stages of the spiritual path. We also mentioned that India as the Ekadesha contains shrines of all of these in different places all around the subcontinent. However, as the singular region containing all of this, one can find this in the Kaveri bank, the Kaveri Delta region, or the Chola Nadu around Kumbakonam, Tanjavur, Tiruvarur, Mayiladuthurai, Nagapattinam, where one can find shrines of all of these aspects, and also as the Eka Kshetra, which is Tiruvarur, where one can find all of the shrines within the single temple of Tiruvarur. Now, continuing on this trend, we shall now talk about this aspect, which is the Ekamurti, where one can find all of these stages in the spiritual path in a single form, in a single deity. Now, spiritual path pertaining to Sri Vidya in Srinagaram, which is Tiruvarur, and the Sri Yantra, means that one will also find the same stages in a deity known as Srinivasa, which is the residence of honor or Sri or auspiciousness. Srinivasa is seen as Parabrahman itself. Primarily, Srinivasa is enshrined in Tirumala or Tirupati as the Lord Venkatesha. The name Venkatesha meaning to destroy sins. Ven is sin, Kata is to destroy, and Isha is the Lord. Srinivasa is also called Govinda, as in the one who is attained by the Vedas. And he is also called the Lord of Kali Yuga or the Kali Yuga Varada, and is strongly believed to be the Lord, the form of Parabrahman manifest in the Kali Yuga, to grant salvation to various devotees, sincere devotees, and also in the paths of bhakti and jnana, taking a person upwards to in the spiritual journey towards moksha. There's a very interesting understanding here that where Venkatesha is seen as the incarnation of Parabrahman itself, he is viewed as not different from the universal mother as Lalita Ambika. Or Lalita Mahatripura Sundari as the very source of all creation, as the very Atman itself. So, to illustrate this is a very interesting incident in a temple called Tirukodi which lies in the Kumbakonam Mayiladuthurai route. In this temple of Tirukodi goddess Tripura Sundari or Lalita Mahatripura Sundari gives darshan as Venkatesha to certain Arvas or the saints, the foremost Vaishnava saints coming from Tirupati. And this was done by the goddess as an ashariri in Tirupati, directing the alvas to go to Tirukodi where they would get a darshan of Lord Venkatesha. And in Tirukodi there is a shrine of the goddess Mahatripura Sundari as Kachi Kodutta Ambal in front of the main shrine. And in this shrine, the goddess is seen as Lord Venkatesha. Instead of the usual Pasha and Ankusha seen in the mother's hands, one sees Shankha and Chakra, which are features of Lord Venkatesha. And the darshan of Lord Venkatesha in the form of Tripura Sundari, showing that both are non-different, can be seen even today. Finally, there is also a theoretical basis in the Mantra Yuga Beda. It is said that Kali Yuge Shasta Ya Baleti Nigadyate, which means that for the present Kali Yuga, the most potent among mantras is the Bala or the Bala Tripura Sundari mantra, which is again a mantra of the goddess as the universal mother, especially in the form as a very playful child. So here the mantra of Venkatesha, the very name of Govinda, is also seen very sacred for Kali Yuga. It is seen that Govinda Namasmaranam, or just remembering the name of Govinda, is Sarva Papa Haranam, or it removes all sins. So for this reason, one sees that the most potent among mantras, which is Lalita Mahatripura Sundari, coincides with Govinda or Venkatesha. There are some interesting features of the Lord enshrined in Tirumala in Andhra Pradesh. People visiting this temple daily are around an average of 60,000, but can peak easily to 1 lakh during festivals, This proves that Tirumala is the Kaliyuga Kshetra not just within India or within South India but also within the entire world, since this number of people visiting the single Kshetra easily surpasses other famous religious sites such as Hindu sites of Vaishno Devi, Shirdi or Kashi, as well as sites of other religions such as Vatican City, Mecca, Jerusalem and Bodh Gaya. Compared to all of these, Tirumala is an extremely busy place with a lot of visitors coming every day. Also, there's a geological artifact of the Shila Toranam, which is seen in the outskirts of the temple. This Shila Toranam or the Arch of Rocks is a Precambrian geology which corresponds to the Eparchian unconformity. This is dated at least 2.5 million years old, which talks a lot about the age of the hills, the Tirumala hills, as well as the Kshetra. Again, at this point, it is interesting that the hill itself is in the form of Lord Venkatesha reclining, and such an Eparchian unconformity is only seen in the Canadian Shield, the Canadian Northern Shield, apart from Tirumala. Also, research has indicated that there are unique species of flora and fauna seen in Tirumala which are not seen anywhere else. Temperatures of 110 Fahrenheit is seen in the idol of Lord Venkatesha constantly, despite ablutions early at 4:30 a.m., and this still remains a mystery. One of the important factors of Tirumala is that inside the sanctum, the devotee forgets everything momentarily, including any prayers or requests that the devotee planned to put before the Lord Venkatesha, and this is because of the immense power of the Lord concentrated. Now, there's the foremost composer in Indian classical music, which is the Annamacharya, who has composed a beautiful song on Lord Venkatesha titled Enta Matramuna Evvarini Talachina, where he states that Lord Venkatesha is the Parabrahman itself manifest in Shiva, Vishnu or Shakti, suitable to the people who worship him. As such, one can also see the aspects of these various deities within Venkatesha. For example, aspects of Shiva include the Jatamudi or the matted hair, and Bilva Archana performed during Dhanur Masa, though this is also a sacred feature of goddess Lakshmi. There is the Kshetrapala Puja performed as per Shaiva Agama. Further to all of these, one also sees that Adi Shankara established a crystal lingam in the temple of Tirumala, addressing this alternatively as Venkateshwara and Chandramalishwara. Apart from this, Adi Shankara also stayed here for a few days and gave lectures on the non-difference between Shiva and Vishnu and how both are to be seen as the exact same deity. This is a fact already established in Rudra Hridaya and Skanda Upanishads. There are also aspects of Vinayaka, where Vinayaka Chaturthi is celebrated in Tirumala by offering modakas to Lord Venkatesha, which are dumplings, which are sweet dumplings, a favorite meal of Lord Ganesha. The Lord is also seen resembling Skanda, whose abodes are hills. In particular, the left hand of the Lord is seen as the Kati or the Katya Vilambita Hasta, seen hanging and facing inwards. This is an aspect of Skanda, which is also seen in very famous Subramanya or Murugan temples such as Swami Malai, Tiruchendur, Parani, etc. So also Muthuswami Dikshidhar, the Carnatic music composer of South India, has praised a song on Subramanyana Lakshitoham, saying it is Venkateshwara Nama Rupena Vichitra Vishaka Mahotsavena, showing that Subramanya is indeed Venkatesha. Finally, also one sees that the Shakti aspect is there in Tirumala because the Vimanam has in its corners the Simha Lalatam, which is the emblem of the lion, only seen usually in Shakti temples. Brahmotsavam is also coinciding with Navaratri, the yearly festival of Tirumala, which is the Navaratri festival honoring Shakti as Durga, Lakshmi and Saraswati. Fridays see Abhishekam with turmeric. Also, interestingly, the hand postures and gestures of Venkatesha as Varada and Katyavilamta Hasta are also seen in various Devi temples, particularly in Kerala, where the Bhagavati temples of Cherpu and Malayalapura have this kind of representation. And also in Kanyakumari, which is the southern tip of the Indian subcontinent, one also sees Bhagavati in the same way, except for the fact that the right hand is not in pure Vardha Mudra, but in a half Vardha Mudra, also holding an Aksharamala. Apart from this, it is also believed that Adi Shankara installed a Meru or a three-dimensional form of the Sri Yantra in Tirumala. The TTD temple administration reports that there is a Sri Yantra below the hundi of the temple, the collection of money, a reason for his prosperity, and also not moving the position of hundi or the hundial in spite of changing the temple queue arrangements many times. The Lord also sports the mark of Srivatsa in the right chest, usually covered, but is a mark of goddess Lakshmi to show that Shri, which also represents Lord Lakshmi, resides in the Lord. That is why the name Srinivasa. And the Lord has also enacted many miracles, such as, for example, opening the sanctum doors for Annamacharya and Tyagaraja. The Lord also served as a tea boy in one of his Leelas in Takkolam to alleviate the sufferings of a certain British officer. The Lord has also performed miracles of ringing the temple bells at night, of causing chaos and commotion when the priests decided to reduce the width of the Lord's Tirunamam or Tilak by a very small amount. And there are many more miracles performed to great saints, stalwarts, as well as to common people over many hundreds of years that the temple has been in existence. Now, as per the Puranic reference, one sees, for example, in Skanda Purana, the Venkatachala Mahatmyam is given. This contains detailed descriptions of how one is to worship Lord Venkatesha, the greatness of the Kshetra, and as one of the many facts, it is said that the Kshetra enshrining Lord Venkatesha had always contained the form of Lord Venkatesha since time immemorial. However, the form of Lord Venkatesha in stone, in the current form that is seen, is only existent since Kali Yuga. Now, regarding the origin of the shrine, as per the Puranas, Vishnu approaches Earth performing a penance to get back an enraged Lakshmi, who apparently got enraged because the sage Bhrigu, due to his arrogance, kicked the chest of Lord Vishnu, which was the dwelling part of Lakshmi. And subsequently, Vishnu approaches Earth, asks for Varaha, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, who stays at Tirumala, for permission to reside in this kshetra, and then stayed in the residence of Vakula Mata, a staunch devotee who is seen as an incarnation of goddess Yashoda, and finally married Padmavati before transforming into an idol in Tirumala. Apparently, the Lord incurred a debt for the marriage with Padmavati from Kubera, and it is believed that only at the end of Kali Yuga this debt will be repaid fully, and the moment the debt is repaid, the Lord will leave his kshetra and reach Vaikuntha. A stage of controversies also surrounded the worship of the Lord, in spite of the Puranas clearly mentioning about the Lord as Vishnu, or as Shaiva Vaishnava unity as Adi Shankara, in spite of understanding that all these are aspects of the same Atman and are not different gods. Still, there were controversies regarding the identity of this Lord, and to establish this firmly, Ramanuja Acharya placed weapons of Lord Shiva and Vishnu near the Lord overnight and closed the sanctum doors, and finally let the Lord himself choose his weapons, and finally which resulted in the Shankha and Chakra retained in the Lord's hands the next morning. So what one sees here is that the Lord himself is particular that he is worshipped formally as a temple idol as per the Vaishnava Agamas. But however, the Lord is the Parabrahman incarnate and has all the features of all the deities as Shiva, Vishnu, Shakti, Murugan, Ganesha, Surya, and Bhairava, and so on and so forth. So, as a feature of the Parabrahman, he has features of every deity imaginable, and it makes absolutely no difference in what form or aspect a devotee worships the Lord, as long as there is pure bhakti and surrender. So this Lord, being the such a flexible approach towards worship, makes the Lord the most easily accessible point for the Kali Yuga for a person to progress spiritually. And this is what Annamacharya says in Entamatsumuna Every Talachina, stating finally that the Venkatesha is the supreme Paratattva. However, Shaivas worship him as Lord Shiva, Vaishnavas worship him as Vishnu, Shaktas worship him as Shakti, and the Kapalikas in the Vamachara branch worship him as Adi Bhairava. Apart from this, people also worship him for very petty things such as money, whereas people also worship him for very lofty things such as jnanam and salvation. Irrespective and immaterial of all of these, the Lord answers the prayers of each devotee in the to the extent to which the devotee has prayed, and sees apparently no distinctions whatsoever. This means that the Lord is the Atman, or the self beyond form and beyond qualifications, and he has clearly transcended all such qualifications and preferences. And thus, as the Atman, the Lord is nothing but Lalita Mahatripura Sundari herself. Now, with the understanding that this Lord is an Ekamurti, the Atman, one can understand that various shrines or various concepts of the spiritual stage, seen as shrines in Tiruvarur or individual temples in Kumbakonam earlier, can also be seen in the various parts of Lord Venkatesha. And here is a brief list of such paths. We start with the Kshetram, which is seen as the very form of Venkatesha. Thus, it is called the Ekamurti, or the single Murti, or the form of Venkatesha, which itself forms the Kshetra. Proceeding next, we have the Vamachara deities. So, the Nagaraja, as an aspect of Kundalini, is seen as the Mooladhara Chakra of Venkatesha. Katyayani as Vamachara Durga is seen in the legs and the limbs of Venkatesha, representing action. Jeshta is seen as the heart of Venkatesha as the Vamachara Lakshmi. Bagalamukhi as Vamachara Saraswati is seen in the throat and tongue of Venkatesha. Vachishta Ganapati is seen as the right hand of Venkatesha, the particular aspect of Bindu facing outward, as Vamachara aspect of Ganesha. So also Aryatara as the aspect of Skanda is seen as the left hand which is facing inwards. The Kalki or Kalpaswami is seen in the sword of Venkatesha, which is the Karavalam. The Veerabhadra and Bhadrakali, which are the Vamachara aspects of Shakti, are seen in the procreative organs, whereas the Bhairavi and Bhairava, which are aspects of Shiva in Vamachara, are seen as the Ganda Berunda, which is the pendant or as the base of the sword of Lord Venkatesha, which usually hangs from his waist down, touching the legs. This is important because the Ganda Berunda represents the threefold form of Shiva Shakti Vishnu as a very destructive aspect. For example, as Shiva it is Sarveshwara, as Vishnu it is Narasimha, and as Shakti it is Pratyangara, and altogether it is seen as the Ganda Berunda, or the powerful bird representing valor and destruction of all the evil elements. So this is the essence of all of Vamachara within Venkatesha. Finally, we proceed further. Anjaneya is seen as the grace emanating from the Lord, and the Ashtadikpalas, starting from Indra, Agni, Yama, Nirutti, Varuna, Vayu, Kubera, and Ishana, are seen as the 8 extremities of the Pitam, or the platform on which Lord Venkatesha stands. Lord Venkatesha is typically seen facing eastward, so the side closest to the viewer in the Pitam is usually Lord Indra. Proceeding further, we see that Jwarahara, as the aspect of Surya, as a Dikpala, is seen as the Pitam center, also representing the Ashwini Devas. And as the three manifestation of Jwarahara, the Lord is seen with the left, center, and right of the Kaustubha Haram, which is the prime jewel of Lord Venkatesha. And in this aspect, Mohini or Dhanvantri as Vaishnava aspect is seen as the left part, Annapurna Shakti aspect in the center, and Vaidyanatha as Shiva aspect in the right part of the Kaustubha Haram, which is the prime jewel of Lord Venkatesha. The Navagrahas are seen, for example, Rahu and Ketu are seen in the left and right knees respectively, which corresponds to the Ajekapada and Ahir Bunya, which are the fire and water dragons, which are 2 of the 27 nakshatras or stars. We also find Lord Shani enshrined in the chakra, which represents Kriya Shakti and destruction of punishment of evil. Shukra represents the Shankha as the creative or desire aspect. Brihaspati represents the crown as Guru, as the highest point of all learning. Buddha and Angaraka represents aspects of Ganesha and Skanda, and thus are seen in the right and left hands. Chandra and Surya represents the physical and mental manifestations, and are thus seen as Surya Nadi and Chandra Nadi, which are the Pingala and Ida on the either side of the Sushumna, the central path through which the Kundalini travels. As such, the Surya and Chandra Nadis are visible in the right and left eyes of Lord Venkatesha, respectively. Aditya, combining all of these Navagrahas, are seen as the form of Venkatesha, which is symbolically represented by the Lord's feet. Brahma represents the space-time as the container of the universe and as thus represents the space occupied by Lord Venkatesha, and this is represented again by the Peetham on which Venkatesha stands. Finally, the Panchabhutas along with Veda, Vyoma and Vishwakarma and Gayatri can be seen. Particularly Vishwakarma is seen as the tips of fingers, particularly the left hand fingers, signifying the complete evolution of the five elements. Prithvi, Jala, Agni, Vayu and Akasha are seen in that order as the index, ring, middle, little ring, middle, index and thumb fingers of the left hand, whereas Vyoma as Brahmarambika is seen in the palm of the right hand, with Veda as Hayagriva seen as the base of the palm of the right hand, and finally Gayatri in the creation stage of all of the elements is seen as the wrist of the right hand. Also one sees Durga Lakshmi Saraswati as the limbs representing action, heart representing feelings, and throat and tongue representing speech. Ganesha and Vinayaka are seen as the right and left hands of Venkatesha, in particular right hand facing outwards emanating the Lord's blessing as Om, and the left hand facing inwards pointing towards the self as the end point of all jnana. Renuka Devi is seen as the crown, as the Sahasrara Chakra and crossing the Sahasrara Chakra to an out of the body perspective. Varaha, Narasimha, the creative and destructive aspects, or the sound and light aspects, or the space and time aspects, are seen as the Lord's two main weapons of the Shankha and Chakra. Lord Vishnu is seen in the Lord's Tilak or Tirunamam, while all of the Venkatesha's accessories as Shankha and Chakra etc. represent Vishnu. The most prominent feature is probably the Tirunamam. The Tirunamam consists of three vertical lines, and this represents the top-down manifestation of Lord Vishnu. In a way, one can say that the surrounding white lines represent Vishnu, whereas the central line, usually as black or red, represents Lakshmi. But also that is the Purusha and Prakriti aspect of Vishnu. But also the three lines as top to bottom represent the top-down orientation of Vishnu, which later manifests as the three gunas or Icha, Jnana and Kriya Shaktis. Following this, one sees that the Shakti aspect, which contains both the Purusha and Prakriti, is seen in the procreative organs of Venkatesha. Whereas the Shiva aspect, it is interesting to note that the Tomal or the outline garland of Venkatesha represents a Shiva Linga, the form of the outline, and so thus the Purusha and Prakriti of Shiva can be seen at the tip of the Tomal garland, which is at the top of the Lord's crown. Also one sees the Akshara Peetham as various parts of Venkatesha, which have been mentioned in the respective Aksharas, starting from the crown as Amrita and ending with Ksha as the Muladhara Chakra. As a summary of all of these Aksharas, one can see Mantrini, which represents the path of Bhakti, as the left hand hanging. It is interesting to see that the left hand hanging and stretched along with the palm represents the long bow or Koranda, which is where Mantrini originated from the goddess or universal mother. Similarly, the right hand with the five outstretched fingers resemble the five arrows, the five flowery arrows, which is representing the Pushpa Bana or Varahi. Thus, the bow and arrow represent Mantrini and Varahi as parts of Bhakti and Jnana. And as combination of both of these, one views Lord Rama as Taraka. So Lord Rama is represented as viewing both of these hands together as a center point, which could be the middle of the waist of Lord Venkatesha. Furthermore, we see that the Hamsa Rupa, that is the Shatkonam of Hatikeshwara shrine, which form the basis of Varahi, can be viewed as the soul of Venkatesha represented in the Lord's heart. The two gurus of Bhakti and Jnana, as Rajagopala Krishna and as Dakshinamurti, can be viewed as the left and the right cheeks of Lord Venkatesha, particularly representing the Vama and the Dakshinachara paths, and also the cheek represent the Pratibimba or the reflection of the Lord's smile. So thus the Lord's blissful smile as the highest point of spirituality, of the spiritual progress, as Satchit Anandam itself is seen as the Guru, the Parama Guru, which is Lord Shasta, and so Lord Shasta is seen in Venkatesha's blissful smile. Also, one sees the Sri Yantra as a summary of all of these deities in various chakras, starting from the Mooladhara till the tip of the crown, as well as the two chakras outside the body, representing Purusha Prakriti as the 8th Avarna as well as Guru as the 9th Avarna. Finally, Kamalamba or Lalita Ambika, which is the universal mother, is seen as the form of Lord Venkatesha itself. So, with this understanding, one sees that the entirety of the spiritual path, with all of its stages represented by all of its deities, are seen as various parts of Lord Venkateshwara. And this asserts the fact that the Lord is indeed the Ekamurti representation of the spiritual path, as much as Tiruvarur is the Eka Kshetra representation, and Kumbakonam is the Eka region representation, while India is the Eka Kshetra or Ekadesha representation. With all of this, one finds the increasing levels of compactness going from an entire country, that is India, to a particular region, that is the Chola region of Kumbakonam, to a particular city and a temple, which is Tiruvarur, and finally to a particular deity, that is Lord Venkatesha. So undoubtedly, these are equivalent to each other in all aspects, and one can, for example, perform a Kshetradhana of the entirety of India simply by visiting the various equivalent temples in and around Kumbakonam, or even as the various shrines in the temple of Tiruvarur, or even meditating and viewing these in the form of Lord Venkatesha. With this, the spiritual path comes to an end. The videos discussed various aspects of the spiritual path, the significances and the shrines, and how one can worship them, and what role these play in the creation of universe as well as in one person's spiritual progress.